In confusion and uncertainty, there emerges a guiding light, a beacon that cuts through the darkness. Welcome to Beacon of Truth with your host, Deacon Harold Burke Sivers.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beacon of Truth. I am your host, Deacon Harold Burke Sivers, and you're listening on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. So great to be here with you on this very, very special day. Not only is it, of course, the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the Blessed Virgin Mother's appearance in Tepeyac in Mexico, to Juan Diego, and of course the incredible image on the tilma, which still can be seen today in Guadalupe. That's a pilgrimage site, and we'll be going on pilgrimage there next year, right? So that not only is that awesome, but today's also the anniversary of EWTN. Hence, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see I got a photo there of Mother Angelica in the background. So a happy anniversary to EWTN on this beautiful feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, which actually ties in very well to our theme today, because when the Blessed Mother appears, and the approved apparitions I'm speaking about, she often appears to children or young adults. You know, and so what a great opportunity today to have on the show with us Brian Greenfield. If you were watching EWTN's coverage of NCYC, or if you were there, you heard Brian Greenfield give presentations to thousands of young people at that event, and he knocked it out of the park. I watched this presentation, which you can still watch on EWTN. Just go to the EWTN website, brand new website, which launched. I think it was launched today. It's phenomenal. I just went there and signed up and subscribed and everything, and I can watch my favorite series, you know, and that's why I watched Brian Greenfield, our guest on the show today, gave a fabulous talk to the youth there, and so it inspired me to get him on the show, because there's so many parents out there that are concerned about the faith of their young people, you know, and the Blessed Mother is concerned as well, the faith not just of young people but faith of the world. But she brings her messages often through young people, you know, and we often make the mistake, and I say mistake of saying, well, the children, they're the future church. No, the children, they're the church now, and we need their energy, their vitality, their enthusiasm, their passion, probably now more than ever. So I'm thrilled to be talking with Brian Greenfield, my very special guest today on Beacon of Truth. And you want to join us today, give us a call, 833-288 EWTN. Any question about ministering to youth or young adults, 833-288-3986. So when we have a guest on the show, we move the Soulful Psalm segment to this part of the show, which we will do right now. All right, my friends, as I just mentioned, it's now time for the Soulful Psalms segment of Beacon of Truth. The Soulful Psalms, we take one of the Psalms from the Book of Sung Praises, from the wisdom literature of the Old Testament, the Jewish hymnal that we also use in our holy sacrifice of the Mass. The Psalms, of course, between the first and second reading, or weekday after the first reading before the Gospel. And we connect that Psalm to your everyday lived experience. Well, today we're continuing our walk through Psalm 109, a very long Psalm written by David. This is in book 4 of the Psalms. Again, David is the only author that has Psalms in all 4 books. And this Psalm, again, is Psalm 109, which is 30. Oh, wait, this one is, wow, this is a long Psalm. It's about, it says 31 verses long, but it reads longer than that. And this is what's called the imprecatory Psalm. So Psalms 58, 83, and this one, 109, are not actually prayed in the Liturgy of the Hours during the 4-week cycle, you know, because of the nature of the psalm. We read some of those verses already. I think we're past all those verses now as we move toward the end of the psalm. So this psalm, again, is Psalm 109. So it's Mizmor Kof Tet. and it says, Lemenzeach le David mizmor, for the choir master of David, a psalm. So again, David wrote this psalm, gave it to the choir master to put music to it. And so we're going to pick up here at verse 22. So David, again, typical David crying out to the Lord, for I am poor and needy, and my heart is pierced within me. Right? We love that beautiful image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which is often a pierced heart or the sorrowful heart of the Blessed Mother, right? Our Lady of Guadalupe today. So we see images of the pierced heart of Mary. You know, we see the swords piercing her soul, piercing her heart, so that the thoughts of many hearts, piercing her soul, so that the thoughts of many hearts may be laid there. Of course, that's with Simeon during the presentation in the temple. And so sometimes our hearts feel pierced. Like today, we're talking about youth and ministering to youth and young adults, our own children, whether they're school or whether they're adults and they're away from the church. Sometimes there's that pain in our hearts, and David is crying out, for help. He goes, his heart is pierced within me. He's feeling the pain and the anguish, which is why he's crying out to the Lord, because he knows and has confidence that the Lord can help him through his trials and through his pains. And he goes on to describe his feeling more than just a pierced heart. I fade like an evening shadow. I am shaken off like a locust. Again, I love how David uses image from nature and created reality in order to bring a more descriptive feel to the psalm, so we can relate to the psalm even more and kind of engage David more in his prayer to the Lord, even emulate David's prayer. So the heart being pierced within, we all know what that feels like. We have a heartache, right? We talk about, that's what we call it, heartache, or a sadness, and we feel that in our heart. Interesting, for the different parts of the body, spoke to a different emotion for the Jewish people. So we thought heart is leb. The heart is a place where your desire for God lives inside of you. So David talking about his heart being pierced. So sometimes his desire for God also is suffering because of what he's going through and the anguish that he's going through. He said he fades like an evening shadow. When the sun is out, you can see your shadow, but when the sun goes down, you can't see your shadow anymore because it's dark. Right? And David's talking about this like an evening shadow. He's fading like that evening. He's there and then he's gone, right? I just love that image of how David is expressing how he's feeling. Shaken off like a locust, almost like he feels ignored. Like you have a locust. Well, we don't have so much locusts here, but, like a fly or a gnat or something like that lands on you, you shake it off. That's how David is feeling. And he goes on even in the next series of next verses of the psalm here to even continue to express it in a physical way. My knees are weak from fasting. Wow. Look at that. David knows about the power of fasting. And I've said this before. This is something we often overlook and neglect and don't participate in nearly enough as we should as Catholics, the practice of fasting. All of us pray, but we don't do enough fasting. The powerful combination of prayer and fasting, because the whether you're fasting from food, as David is referring to here, his body is weak, his knees are weak because he's fasting. That's how his desire and his longing is so intense that he's feeling it physically from the fasting. And when we fast, whether it's fasting from food or fasting from something that we enjoy, maybe your favorite television show or some other activity that you enjoy, fasting from that to add to your prayer, I think amplifies and magnifies the power of that intention. And so that hunger that you feel, or that longing or that desire that you feel when you're fasting, is a physical reminder that what you're really hungering, thirsting, and desiring is a deep, intimate relationship with Jesus Christ, right? And that's what David is reminding us of. He says, my body is thin and gaunt, right? And we don't have to fast to that extreme, but David is his prayer is so intense, and he is connecting fasting with that prayer in such an intense way that he's feeling physical effects from it. Now, we should never fast to that extreme, But the idea here is fasting and prayer together is a powerful combination. And David says, I've become an object of scorn. When they see me, they shake their heads. Why? They feel sorry for him. Because David is relying on the help of the Lord. Right? Remember, our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth, right? In another psalm. So David is relying on the Lord, and because he's going through some physical manifestation, that they're mocking him. You shouldn't be relying on the Lord. You should be relying on the things of the world. But no, David's confidence, as our confidence, should always be in the Lord, especially through the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary. On this feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, Brian Greenfield is my very special guest today, talking about youth and young adults. We'd love to hear from you today. 833-288 EWTN. That's 833-288-3986.
Beyond Damascus with Dan Demite and Aaron Richards is our show for young adults.
Everybody's talking about encounter. Everybody's talking about that mountaintop experience. What we fail to often talk about is what happens after, what happens beyond that Damascus moment.
Jesus Christ is calling all of us to be missionary disciples, disciples of Jesus who are on mission to bring the kingdom of God here and now on this earth.
Beyond Damascus with Dan Demite and Aaron Richards, tomorrow at 8 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
There's a special red disc in the entryway floor of St. Peter's Basilica. Almost 1,700 years ago, it was in front of the altar, and it's where kings like Charlemagne knelt for their coronation. In the new St. Peter's, which is about 400 years old, the disc was moved to the entrance. It was decided that pilgrims who enter St. Peter's should be reminded of who we are. Something that kings knelt on is now for every Christian to walk over. I recently learned of a woman whose daughter had Down syndrome and died at a very young age. She told her daughter, "You're a princess," and the little girl told everyone she met, "I'm the daughter of a great king." One day she looked intently at her mom and said, "Mommy, you have a crown, but you don't see it." Did you know that at your baptism, the priest put chrism on your head and anointed you as a priest, prophet, and king? Remember who you are, child of God. This is Chris Stefanik from reallifecatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
Going into battle.
Woo! Yeah.
You know how they always say the youth group music is always cooler than the rest of the church? That's what I feel like our show is. Sometimes we're the youth group.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. I mean, music is an important part of this show.
Yeah.
As attested to yesterday.
Yesterday was powerful.
Powerful show yesterday. Beacon of Truth playlist, man. I love those episodes, and we hardly even got it to any lyrics because it was just that song. It just drew people in to share their experiences.
Yeah.
We talked about the Changes by David Bowie was the song, and it really meant a lot to people. So it was great. We'll do more of those for sure.
Yeah. Amen.
Absolutely. I'm Deacon Burke Sivers, listening to Beacon of Truth. And today, on this feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe and the anniversary of EWTN, don't forget to go to EWTN's brand new updated website. I just went on it today. It's absolutely awesome. Don't forget to sign up. It's free, and you can curate your own content, if you will. So it's awesome. And then also in this feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, we have Brian Greenfield today on with us, who spoke at NCYC, hit it out of the park. You can go to EWTN and see his presentation at NCYC, which is archived there. And he's going to talk to us today about evangelizing youth and young adults, a topic that is near and dear to so many in the church today. It's the number one question I get wherever I go, anywhere in the world. How do I get my kids to come back to the faith, or how do I keep my kids Catholic? Well, that's what we're talking about today with Brian Greenfield. Would love for you to join us today. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. 3986.
Well, as we celebrate our own anniversary, of course, EWTN is celebrating along with KTDC 22 years this week in Iowa. Of course, if you're a part of celebrating and supporting Triumph of the Heart Radio, thank you. Joseph and the team there doing amazing work. So here's to 22 more. And, of course, alongside with EWTN Radio, thanks so much.
All right. I'm so excited to bring Brian. I forgot that you had to jump
That's all
in
right.
there, Ace.
I'm still in the room now. Come on.
Amen. So Brian and I have been friends for a while now, and we actually met through Justin Fatika, because he was Brian at the time was working with Hard as Nails. Of course, Justin is on EWTN now, with his show and the work that he's doing, which is doing some great stuff. So Brian was raised in Washington, D.C. area. Went to Gonzaga College High School, then went to Seton Hall University, right near where I used to live, back in South Orange, New Jersey. And after that, he went on to the Franciscan University of Steubenville, and began formation as a Franciscan friar. And he returned to Washington, D.C., discerned out. And began to teach at a high school in New Jersey, began working, as I mentioned, with Hard as Nails with Justin Fatika. And he has his master's degree in theology and a master's degree in educational leadership. And so Brian is now living in Florida as director of campus ministry at Jesuit High School in Tampa. And man, it's so great to have you on the show today, Brian. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Deacon. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you, my friend. Great to see you. So this is the first time on the show, and some people may not be familiar with you. So just to share a little bit with us about your kind of faith journey. Have you always been Catholic? Are you a convert? Have you kind of had a lull in your faith and then came back? And then how did you get to be doing the things that you're doing now?
So yeah, I mean, I was born and raised Catholic. Not really intentionally pursuing holiness, more of like a CEO, Christmas and Easter only. That's when I would go to church. Right? And then when I went through high school, middle school, high school like that, and college is where it began to really stick, where I don't call it a conversion because, I never left Catholicism. I just didn't practice it. I call it more of like a reversion. We use that term a lot, where the faith kind of reawakened in my heart. And what the Lord had been trying to say to me all those years, I was finally aware of it, and finally at a place where I could accept grace and respond to what the Lord was doing. And let me ask you real quick, because I know this is probably on a lot of people's hearts. What was it about the college experience? Was it Newman Center? What was it that kind of helped solidify your faith during your time in college? I think it was community. I think it was I was at the right place at the right time, with the right people, because the Lord has his time. So I was at the right place, Seton Hall University, and I was around the right people. It was my friend Justin and a couple of other people, young people that were separated from their norms, because that's what happens when you go to college. So the voices that I had when I was growing up, they weren't prevalent voices in my life. So I could hear fresh revelation, fresh news, a fresh view of God. And when God moved, I had nothing really holding me back outside of maybe my ego and my past experiences. So I think it was just at the right place at the right time in the right situation where I could hear God. I was in Eucharistic adoration, and it was just a situation where, God had been working on me throughout this whole time. And a lot of times we think that we're so far away from God and God's not present, but those moments, God is intentionally working on us. And God had been working at me and working in my heart and revealing certain things to me over time. And then when I was on this retreat in adoration, that was the moment where, that calling got to be a little bit more powerful. I was at a place where I could really listen to it. And then at some point, there has to be a fearlessness in you to respond. And I was with a good community of people that we were all on that journey together. And, this community is key. So it made that response, a lot, it made me more open to responding. So I think all of those together, again, it was the Lord's time. That was the moment when not the Lord started to speak to me, because he'd always been speaking to me, but that was the moment when I could hear him a little bit more clear. And I was at a place where I would respond. So that's kind of in a church in Kearney, New Jersey.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We used to wrestle Kearney because I went to St. Benedict, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too far from Seton Hall. Awesome. And so, and you also discerned a religious vocation as well. Is that right? Did this come out of your experience from college?
Yeah, because we went to school in New Jersey, and right across the way was New York. So CFRs, that's the religious community that I was part of. I had a couple of friends that had joined the community, and I'd met Father Stan, and he was pivotal in my discernment. Father Benedict was pivotal in my discernment. Father Benedict Rochelle. Father Andrew Apostoli, those are people that young people may not know them, but they're like giants.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
Giants in the.
Yeah.
And they were pivotal in my discernment. I knew them, went to Franciscan, ended up going on a vocations retreat with them. And that kind of, again, I was at a place where I could hear the Lord. I was at a place where I wasn't being distracted, where there was no people to kind of feed on my ego, where I was just kind of free to respond to whatever the promptings of the Lord was in my life at that time. So, I went into the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, which was great formation because everyone knows this. As men, there's not too much formation in becoming a man of God. No one really tells you how to do it. So for me, going to the CFRs, that was phenomenal. I had classes with Father Benedict, just great formators, people that cared about me, pushed me, embracing poverty, especially in this culture, having to let things go. Not like, the material poverty, that's the easy thing. But that poverty of spirit, humbling myself, and realizing in the divine economy that I'm not the top dog, that makes for a good priest, but it also makes me a good husband and father. I think I'm a good husband and father, but it helped me in that. So I was with the CFRs, and I was thinking about that the other day. Just the amount of people that poured into me, that poured into my life, that poured into the faith. So they were pivotal. They were great. They're great brothers, and they helped me out tremendously. They helped me grow and heal a lot. So
yeah, we talk a lot about that on the show. How you enter into a different phase, a different season of life, and you think, okay, this is what God wants, and that's what He wants, but not for the reasons that you think. You joined the CFR thinking, I might be called to this vocation. But God said, yeah, I need you to be here for a while because I need you to learn something before I move you on to what I really have in mind for you. I love how God does that. And sometimes it could be a little bit like, wait, what's God doing here? But then when you look back with perspective, like you said, that experience in discerning vocation, just like I did with the Benedictines down the street from where you were actually in Newark, it helps, I think, shape me into the person I am today, just like it did for you.
100%. They told me when I was leaving, they told me that the discernment worked because now I know where God is calling me. So
that's beautiful.
Great about people that have a heart for God. There's no agenda. They want you to do God's will. And if it's with them, great. If it's not with them, as long as you're doing God's will, that's what brings them joy. So they're great.
Yeah, that's something that we should expand upon a little bit when we get to the next segment of the show. Because I don't think young people, they're so into the social media and getting information quick and satisfying desires quickly, satisfying the physical and I need to be stimulated now. I don't think and I'm generalizing here, but really as a whole don't take enough time to quiet themselves and discern. You talked about adoration. You talked about having people pour into your life that care about you, that want to see you grow spiritually, not just financially or with prosperity, but spiritually, and so that'd be something great to talk about, because I know that parents that are listening to, or people that work with young youth and young adults, are trying to find ways to help them not just develop psychologically, but also spiritually as well, so that they have a deep relationship with Jesus. Not just let's be buddies and Jesus Christ is Lord and God. So how do I develop a deep relationship with him, so it's something that permeates my life, where I'm making decisions from that relationship?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. So I definitely want to pour into that the next part of the show, and so you're director of campus ministry at Jesuit High School. How's that been going?
Yes, sir. It's been great. I stepped away for a little bit, but now I'm back. So it's been great. It's been a great journey.
Awesome. All right. Mr. Brian Greenfield is my very special guest today on Beacon of Truth. He spoke at NCYC, which you can see that broadcast at EWTN. Would love to hear from you talking about youth and young adults. 833-288 EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. If you missed any of today's show or want to share it with someone, you can find Beacon of Truth on demand at EWTN.com/radio.
EWTN Religious Catalog has great gift suggestions for Advent and Christmas. The Children's Mass Playset is a great way for children to learn about the Eucharist through imaginative play. Playing Mass is a beautiful and effective way for children to learn about one of the most important parts of their Catholic faith, and you'll be amazed by how much they learn for ages 18 months and up. It's one of many great gift suggestions for Advent and Christmas from EWTN Religious Catalog. For more, visit EWTNRC.com today.
He begins to knit in this womb a child. Once God has decided you shall be, you are children of God. See, deep within a conscience, yours and mine, everybody, man discovers a law which he doesn't lay upon himself. You and I, in our conscience, planted by God himself, this is wrong and this is right. Even if you don't know this awesome catechism, it seems like the more he gives, the more we rebel. Did you notice that when there's someone to save, be it ever so young, they call it a baby. They call it even a boy and a girl. When they want to get rid of it, they call it it, or a fetus. Isn't that strange how they manipulate language?
Helping build strong Catholic families.
This is EWTN Radio.
On Monday's Catholic Connection, my dear friend and fellow talk show host Vanessa Denha-Garmo sits in for me. Joining her will be Matt Swaim, of course, in the Journey Home and the Sunrise Morning Show. Right now, back to Beacon of Truth with Deacon Harold Burke Sivers.
Yeah. Great song to enter into the weekend with on this Friday.
That's right. We have to have that Friday feel-good tune, so you're like...
That's right. That's right. So as you're driving home from work, you're like, yeah.
You need the right music when you know that laundry and grocery shopping and Christmas shopping are in front of you. You know, you're like,
Yeah, I did some laundry today, as a matter of fact.
It's on my list.
Pretty awesome. All right. I'm Deacon Harold Burke Sivers, listening to Beacon of Truth. And today we have Mr. Brian Greenfield on with us today. Brian spoke just recently. Well, he's been speaking for years now, but he recently spoke at NCYC, which you can see the rebroadcast at EWTN. In fact, on their brand new website, which I think launched today on the anniversary of EWTN, which is celebrating. So happy anniversary to EWTN. And go to the website and check out the new layout. It looks more like the app now. They're kind of like parallel now. You can sign up to get the newsletter, free information. It's awesome. And you can see Brian's talk at NCYC, which was phenomenal. You know, I've been hearing so many wonderful things about the talk, so I had to have him on the show. And again, we've been friends for a while, and would love to hear from you. We're talking about ministering to youth and young adults. What are some of the challenges that you're facing when trying to either minister or even you're in your home raising youth, or maybe you have issues with your young adults who are away from the church. Would love to hear from you. Give Brian a call. He'd love to talk to you about this. 833-288 EWTN. That's 833-288-3986.
Well, as we celebrate our faith together and as we talk about how to reach the next generation, of course, having our relationship with our guardian angel, definitely something we want to help you out as we renew that devotion. We got a free ebook that's available for you right now, EWTN.com, again, on the new website, /Guardian Angels with an S, so EWTN.com /Guardian Angels. As you get in on that, it's My Constant Companion, My Guardian Angel, free ebook available at EWTN.com.
All right. This is Deacon Harold Burke Sivers, and we're talking with Brian Greenfield today. Brian grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, attended high school there, then went up to my area in South Orange, New Jersey. I grew up in Hillside, which is right next to Newark. I went to St. Benedict's Prep, which is right down the street from where Brian went to college at Seton Hall University, which also has a seminary there as well. And he discerned with the CFRs, the Franciscans. That's Father Benedict Groeschel, Father Andrew Apostoli, Father Stan Fortuna. Those guys are very, very familiar to EWTN family. Discerned with them, and then left and went on to get a couple of master's degrees, and is now teaching, a campus minister at a high school in Tampa, Florida. And he's here to talk to us today about ministering to youth and young adults. Of course, would love to hear from you today. If you have any questions, any challenges you're facing with youth and young adults, how to effectively evangelize them, how to talk to them, how to help them foster a deep relationship with Jesus. Brian talked about people pouring into his life, and now he wants to return the favor and pour into your life today. Give us a call, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. So, Brian, when you were, asked to speak at NCYC, which is a phenomenal event, and you work with young people every day at the high school, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing young people face? Because I know you're younger than I am, but I think we're in that same generation. I grew up without cell phones and things like that. And so there's so many distractions. There's so many ways that young people get information quickly, like at their fingertips within seconds. What about silence? What about discipline and virtue and these kind of things that I don't think I know they're not emphasized enough in the culture. So what kinds of things are you seeing with young people that's challenging them, but at the same time, what also kind of positive things are you seeing from young people as well?
Well, I mean, the positive is that they still have that same energy. They still have the same heart. They still have the same desires to do good. Sometimes that can be problematic because if you're misguided and you don't understand what good is, then you'll do good according to whoever in the culture is telling you this is what you do. So they still have the desire to do the right thing. They still have ambitions, and they haven't been beaten down by life where that passion has been quelled. So they still believe that goodness can come into this world, or they still have that faith. So those are phenomenal things. Like all the problematic stuff, you kind of hit it on the head right there, like what you said a couple of minutes ago. A lot of them are distracted. I say this to I work at an all-guys school now. I said I stepped back into I was a head of discipline for a couple of years, and then I stepped back into campus ministry. So I've kind of seen a lot as far as what's going on with our guys and our teams. But a lot of them are distracted. We live in, I would say, like a vicious world. When I say vicious, I'm talking about like the philosophical viciousness, right? Where someone believes that what's good is bad and what's bad is good, and they do the bad with pure ease. They do the negative that they perceive to be good with pure ease, and that's where they get the young people. They say that there is a barrage of messages that tells them, and they're loud and they're impassioned and they're bright, loud messages that say this negative thing, which us in our generation, it would be preposterous to believe it because we weren't bombarded with that. But they say that this negative thing is good. This non-virtuous behavior is virtuous. You know, this thing that leads you to bondage is going to lead you to freedom. They get these messages all the time. And with the rise of social media and cell phones, you know, they get them. It's continuous, unfiltered, and they're young and they want to do the right thing. And you know what they've learned is that the loudest voice in the room is the voice of truth, which we know is not always the case. So what do? They just follow that because it's loud, it's in their face. They're pure-hearted and they're searching, so they just go down this path, and that kind of, you know, for a lot of them, it leads them away from Christ. It leads them. It makes it more difficult for them to hear the voice of Christ, and it makes them more difficult to be docile to the Holy Spirit, because the messages that they have, that they're hearing, not only does it not celebrate virtue, but it doesn't celebrate humility. It doesn't celebrate, you know, it promotes rebelliousness. And if you're rebelling against a negative thing, that's fine. If you're rebelling against like negativity or hurt or sin, that's fine. But when you're living in a vicious culture and you're rebelling, then a lot of the times you're going to be rebelling against truth. You're going to be rebelling against the good. And that's kind of where the young people kind of find themselves right now, trying to find their place, not knowing quite where that place is, but just following like the currents of the culture. So that's kind of where.
Oh man, love that. I'm Deacon Burke Sivers, listening to Beacon of Truth. We're talking with Brian Greenfield, who's spent most of his life working with youth and young adults. He just gave a phenomenal presentation at NCYC. If you haven't seen it, on this Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe and EWTN's anniversary, go to the EWTN brand new website, look for his content there, and watch that talk and show it to all your youth and young adults as well. We're talking about evangelizing youth and young adults. You have any questions for Brian today, he would love to take your call. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. You know, Brian, I think what's going on, as you described so well just now, the distraction and the point, you know, misdirection, you know, good is bad, bad is good. That was the plan of Satan all the way in the beginning of the Bible, Genesis 3. You know, I mean, he made our first parents think that they were God, that they don't need to listen to God. They just need to listen to themselves, that God is trying to fool them, that, you know, they can have the same power as God if they just obeyed their own will and go against the will of God. And that's so strong in our culture today. So what are some ways that we can counter that? Like, what besides listening to you, which they definitely should do. But I mean, what kinds of things can we do, like parents and stuff, or in a school setting, to counter some of those? Because they're coming into those environments with all of this stuff in their minds. What can we do to counter some of that?
I've been thinking about this. I think the most powerful way to combat what they're hearing in the culture is passionately living out your faith. You know, I wish I could tell you that there was 5 steps, or I wish I could tell you there was book to read, scripture, of course, catechism, of course, but I wish I could tell you that there was something you can read. But in some ways, that's the easy way out, right? In some way, that's easy because we can, you know, it's easy to use our intellect as a shield if we don't want to live it, right? But what the youth, they will believe what they see. Yeah. And when they see people passionately living out the faith, then they can't help but believe. They can't help but say, okay, what's going on with him? Why is he like that? You know, why his passion is resonating with me, because I want to live with passion. I think they want to see people. You know, if we lived according to what we say we believe, how could we not be passionate? And then like on the flip side, when we're not passionate, they look at us and they're like, okay, if what they're saying is true, then how can they not be passionate in their lives about God if that's what they say that they're living for? If God is who they say he is, how can they just be on the fence about him? If God is who how could they not be, I'm not saying that you have to be loud like you or I am, but your faith should be reflected in the way that you live. So I'll say if you're going to do anything, don't look for a quick fix. The fix is conversion. The fix is our own conversion. And then out of the life that we're living, out of the holiness that we're pursuing, we'll minister from that place as opposed to learning a style or learning a couple of key quotes and hoping that sticks with young people. I think it's just passionately living out the faith.
I absolutely agree, because it's about relationship building. Like following a 5-step program of doing this. I mean, maybe that serves a purpose to a point, but that's not going to bring people to a deep love and intimacy with Jesus Christ. We're talking with Brian Greenfield today about evangelizing youth and young adults. Brian gave a phenomenal presentation at NCYC in Indianapolis, the same event where Pope Leo also spoke. And Brian would love to answer your questions about youth and young adults today. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Michael is calling from Spokane, Washington, my neighbor to the north, listening on Sacred Heart Radio.
Right.
Michael, welcome to Beacon of Truth.
Thank you. We're getting plenty of rain here in the west side of the state.
Oh,
wow.
yes, we are. What do they call that? Atmospheric river? That's what we're calling
right.
it?
You got it. Right. We're all wearing life jackets almost. But happy Advent to both of you, and Merry Christmas to all. My question is, and Matt helped me form this question, how do you speak to youth about abortion? It's such a delicate subject. Since 1973, there have been over 60 million abortions in America. Saying the rosary, as someone said, is a good way for conversions. Peacefully standing in front of abortion places would be another way. And for adults, it's a moral issue, not illegal. If it's legal, it does not mean it's morally correct. And for adults, not paying taxes because of federal funding of abortion is another peaceful and effective manner.
All right. What do you say to Michael there, Brian?
How to teach the youth about abortion? I can just go by the way that I do it. One, there's no sugarcoating the truth. You speak to what abortion is, and you speak to the destruction of abortion, what the church teaches, where it can be found in the scripture about what abortion is. But I think the key thing that I've found to be most effective is I think young people are led by their hearts. And I said that earlier. They're led by their hearts. And sometimes they have a misguided view of what's merciful and what's loving. And they'll go by that misguided view. What I found to be true, and this doesn't always bring about 100% acceptance, is just the understanding of the individuals involved in the act of abortion and the hurt that the young woman is going through, the hurt that the young woman will continue to go through if they go down that path of terminating that pregnancy. You talk about the life of the unborn child. You talk about the sin that Satan celebrates in abortion. And you talk about what's the true, loving, empathetic, merciful thing for you to do for that individual. And that's to bring them to the truth, to bring them to healing, to let them know that, this path may seem like an easy path, but that is not living in accord with the dignity that you have as an individual. That's not who God created you to be. That's not what God wants for you. So I think leading with empathy, trying to understand, where their hearts are guiding them, but showing them what the true path to love would be in that situation. That's kind of been more successful for me.
Yeah, and beautifully said, Brian. I want to add this, because I had a recent encounter with a young lady when I spoke on a college campus not too long ago. This was an event that was run by the Newman Center. Of course, it was open to everybody. And during the question and answer session, some young woman, obviously who's not Catholic, was trying to challenge me on abortion. It's not really, you talk about being pro-life, but it's not really a life. It's not really a person. And she said, so I said, if it's not a person, then what is it? She said it was a parasite. I said, oh, okay. Let me see if I understand what you're saying. Now, notice how I'm responding. I didn't get mad. I didn't get angry. I didn't, try to go on her level and push back. I said, let me see if I understand what you're saying. So you're calling the child in the womb a parasite because in a parasitic relationship, the parasite takes from the host and gives nothing back in return. So you're saying the child in the womb attached to the umbilical cord of his mother is taking from the mother and not giving anything back. So in that sense, you said the child is a parasite. Yes. I said, then you'd be wrong. As I explain this to you, get your phone out, go to Wikipedia, and look up microchimerism. Microchimerism. And so look at this as I'm explaining to you, just so you can check me, see if I'm saying anything that's wrong. So microchimerism is a scientific reality and fact that when a woman is pregnant, with every pregnancy she has, whether the pregnancy is carried to full term and she gives birth to the child, whether the child sadly dies through miscarriage, whether tragically the child dies in an abortion, the mother carries the cells from every pregnancy she's ever had in her body for the rest of her life. So when the child's attached to the umbilical cord, yes, he's getting nutrient and substance from the mother, but he's also giving back to the mother as well. And in fact, science is showing that when the mother has an infection, that not only will her white blood cells, but the cells of her child from the pregnancies will also go to the aid of the mother in those cases. And so she was looking all this up as I was explaining this. I said, so it is not a parasite. So it's a symbiotic relationship between a mother and child. That's a special bond that there's a biological bond that a mother has with every single child. And that's why abortion is tragic, And I said, think about this when it comes to Jesus. Right? Mary has the cells of Jesus in her body, right? And Jesus has the cells of the Blessed Mother in his body. Whoa. So now there's a whole nother dimension on the Catholic understanding of the Blessed Mother and her relationship with us and her relationship to Jesus. So I hope that helps you. We're talking with Brian Greenfield today, my very special guest who knocked it out of the park at the recent NCYC event, spoke to thousands and thousands of young people in Indianapolis, Indiana. The same event where Pope Leo also spoke. We're talking today about evangelizing youth and young adults, and we love to hear from you. Brian would love to take your call and answer your question today about how do we effectively share our faith with youth and young adults so that they build a deep, intimate relationship with Jesus. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Now, Brian, I want to ask you, I know you teach at an all-boys high school, and I went to an all-boys high school as well in Newark, New Jersey, St. Benedict's Prep. Are you noticing that there are challenges? Are there any different challenges between boys and girls, adolescents, males and females, with what's going on in society? We talked about some of the challenges that they both have, but do you notice anything specific to the group broken out by sex with a male or female?
Yeah, I think with guys, I think there's just
Yep, go ahead, Brian. All right, I think we lost Brian there for a second, but Brian was just about to answer a question about are the differences between men and women, adolescents, male and females, when it comes to different challenges that we're seeing in the culture today. And I would say Men and women respond differently to external stimuli, right, in the culture, because girls often mature faster than guys. So, they're having their menstrual cycle, so they're dealing with a lot of things before it comes into the vision of the guy. So I think with that brings some of his own challenges. I think Brian is back now. Brian, sorry, you dropped off there, but a little technical issue. Yeah. That's okay. So, yes, you were just about to dive in about some of the different challenges that specifically males and females as adolescents are experiencing in our culture today.
Okay, yeah, I think that the enemy didn't want us to go this route, so that's why he just kind of broke us down. I think there's, if I try to synthesize like one problem that I see with that guys are wrestling with right now, is a lot of guys are being kind of like softened by the culture, if that makes any sense. And when I say softened, I mean like they don't want to do the difficult tasks. They don't want to do the hard things nowadays. And whatever hard things or hard tasks they embrace, they're things that they already, it's not a challenge to them. Like if I already know that I'm fast and I say, you know what, I want to run track. Well, that's not a challenge to me. They want to do what they know that they're going to be successful at. They don't want to do the difficult things. So that kind of flows into a life of virtue. That kind of flows into the disciplines that they have to have. They have to take up as men. They don't want to do the difficult task. That flows into their prayer life. That flows into their willingness to go to mass on Sunday. So I think that there's just been a general, softening of men nowadays, and that's what we wrestle with our guys, like pulling them to more, creating a vision of what a man is supposed to be, not a secular, misguided man, but what is a man who lives his life in the image of Christ look like? Let's let our guys know who they're called to be. Let our guys know who they are, and then challenge them to go to that place. That's the struggle that we have right now. It's like letting them know that there's more to them, challenging to live a life of virtue, like having them endure the struggles that go with living a life of virtue, allowing them to fall and learn from their mistakes. Because a lot of guys don't, this is a parental thing as well. We don't want our kids to fall and make mistakes because we think that it's like a hit on our parenting. But I think with guys, they need to learn to struggle, and they need to learn to struggle at an early age. They need to learn to work towards something. They need to learn just grasp the virtue of doing a difficult task, understanding that everything that's natural is not really holy. So for guys, I think that is the struggle that they're going to face, that they're facing right now. That's what we're wrestling against with our men right now. And again, like you said, I think the enemy is dancing around, the confusion.
All right. Brian, man, so great to have you on the program today, my friend. How can people find out more about you, what you're doing, if they want you to come and speak at an event or something like that?
I'm on Catholic Speakers. You can feel free to reach out to them and they'll get in contact with me, and I'm happy to do any event that you want me to do.
All right, awesome. Brian Greenfield, our very special guest today on this Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe and the anniversary of EWTN. All right, next week, a special set of shows. We're talking about the 145 progression of faith. And remember, you can stream today's show by visiting Podcast Central at EWTN.com/radio. And may Almighty God bless you, keep you, and protect you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
I am Father Thomas Loya, and this week on Light of the East on EWTN...
Do not celebrate the holidays. Rather, truly contemplate the great mystery of the Incarnation and be transformed by it. Do not say Merry Christmas. Say instead, Christ is born. Glorify Him. Don't just buy gifts. Become a gift. Live always